The future looks pretty bright with Anthony Richardson and the Indianapolis Colts after this win over the Eagles. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show is presented by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I am Jake Arthur. He is Zach Hicks. You know the two of us from horseshoehuddle.com. And the two of us are here today to talk to you about this 27-13 win by the Colts over the Eagles. It's only preseason, but man, you got to have a little optimism after something like that. Obviously, today is all about Anthony Richardson, like we like it to be, like you guys like it to be. So we'll start out just talking about Richardson's performance. He played the whole first half. Move on to talk about the offense, who else kind of stuck out to us, and then we'll wrap things up with the defense. So, Zach, let's just start out. Anthony Richardson, he's not going to be a box score guy. Like, through this whole season, there's going to be annoying people on Twitter who look at the box score every game and say that he's not doing well, but you have got to watch him play. Today, he was 6 of 17 for 78 yards. He also had 5 carries for 38 yards. The carries, that's nice, but it's only like 35% completions, and it just doesn't do his game justice. If you watch that game, I don't know. Number one, they weren't trying to be efficient. I know you're going to talk all about this, the completion percentage here in a second, but he just looked like a playmaking quarterback to me throughout the whole first half.
Yeah, when you were looking at what the Colts were trying to do in this game, they were definitely trying to give Anthony Richardson a wide range of looks and a wide range of ways to attack downfield into tighter coverages and just see how he could react that way. This is a preseason. It's not a time where you're going to throw out a real game plan. You're going to throw out this complex way to attack a defense that you know how to attack. It was all about just getting Anthony Richardson acclimated to throwing against an NFL style looks or whatever. So fitting those balls into tight coverage, attacking down the field, and completion percentage is going to suffer from that. The Colts in this game, if you're watching this game, there was no bubble screens. There was no tap passes to get those completion percentage numbers up. There's no mesh. There's no outside breaking routes. It was a lot of stuff that was vertical down the field, either, long shot play or over the middle, or maybe like a quick RPO every now and then. But for the most part, it was plays that are kind of like, I want to say like difficult completion plays. There was no easy ones in this game. And that's kind of what the Colts are trying to look for today. They barely called any run plays. If they did call a run play, it was typically like a read option or with a run, or like a run with a pass option on top of it. It was really just kind of getting Anthony Richardson acclimated to constantly throwing the ball. And it just wasn't a type of game plan for completions. Like it would have been great if he came out here and he completed 80% of his passes with that type of game plan, but that's just not what Anthony Richardson is right now. He is this raw quarterback who's not perfect with his mechanics, and because he's such a big playmaker, he's going to force some passes that maybe all quarterbacks can't force. But it was really just a game, again, to get him acclimated to attacking down the field, not just dink and dunk, dink and dunk, dink and dunk. The layups are going to be there in the real game plan, in the real regular season games, but that's not what this game is about. So 6 of 17 for 78 yards. Sure, you could throw 2 drops in there, 3 drops in there, and make the numbers look better in your head. But for the most part, I think this was a really good showing from him. I really liked what he did in the pocket. I thought his overall accuracy looked better in this game than it did against the Bills. Like, there weren't as many high passes, and we saw more of those peak moments, those like peak really good throws. The throw to Kylan Grants over the middle of the field was phenomenal. The couple of throws to Michael Pittman Jr. were really good as well. The one to Josh Downs might be his best overall throw we've seen this entire offseason. So yeah, I think it was a really positive showing. Again, the box score might not say that, but for what the Colts were trying to do with Anthony Richardson in this preseason game, I think he kind of showed that he can be that playmaker and he can do a lot of good things, even if he's not that finished product right now. So I thought it was a really positive game from him for sure.
Yeah, and honestly, the most important thing in the box score is points, and 3 of his first 4 drives led to 17 points. So he was moving that offense. They were really productive drives, and again, they were acting aggressively throughout the game, like going for it on 4th downs and everything, even late into the game, because they're just trying to play situational football. Basically, they're trying to get their guys in different situations. So yeah, it wasn't an approach that was going to be conducive to big numbers, but I really liked what they did out there. Especially you mentioned those throws. That throw to Kylan Granson on the left side, outside the left side numbers, was just a beaut. He had that really nice one to Josh Downs that just went through his hands. Most of the time, 6, 7, 8, 9 times out of 10, Downs is going to come down with that. I will mention, I've seen a lot of chatter about people being concerned about Alec Pierce. Here's one like the thing is, in practice, these guys connect on these things a lot more often than they don't. But for some reason in a game, it's just like not clicking. I don't know if they just need more time together or what. Obviously more reps together will help, but some of these throws, Pierce got to come down with some of these.
I don't know. I don't think there was really one in this game that I really thought Pierce had to come down with. I mean, the very first target was vertically
there
down
weren't
the
any
field.
gimmies like the Buffalo game, but you just maybe want to see, I guess, a little more fighting at the point of attack, maybe.
I don't know. Like he slipped out of his break on one. There was one vertical down the field where he got tangled up with the corner. The back shoulder one, the corner made a phenomenal play, and the ball never even touched Pierce's hands. It bounced off the defender. And then maybe the deep dig route, you could say that he should come down with that. But again, it was a pass breakup by the defender. So I don't know. I don't think it's perfect. The one thing I'll say about Alec Pierce, I know this is our Anthony Richardson segment, so I don't want to spend too much time on a different player, but I'd rather lean on the flashes I saw as the rookie season than a couple preseason moments to say what I think definitively about Pierce. Like, don't get me wrong. I want to see more from Alec Pierce, and I want to see obviously him have a really good season coming up, but I'm not going to judge a second-year player off of what his preseason looks like when we already have a full year of him looking pretty good and doing some good things for the offense. So we'll see. I mean, if it carries into the regular season where it's real football that's being played, then sure, it'll be something that we have to talk about. But right now, it's preseason. Hopefully they can iron it out. They're going to have 17 games to work on this. So we'll see what happens there. But one thing I did want to add with Anthony Richardson too is, yes, the 6 for 17 completion percentage was not great. But what we kind of saw was the drives really started to stutter a little bit towards the end of the half. It was 0 for 6 on those last 2 drives in the 2-minute drill. Again, they're not really game planning for a 2-minute drill. You would have a lot more quicker options and quicker passes just to start getting the ball down the field to kick that eventual field goal. This was very much, I'm throwing a deep dig route. I'm throwing a vertical pass to Michael Pittman Jr., not typically what you would do in a 2-minute drill. So I just don't think the Colts really game plan for that. But before that, again, Anthony Richardson was 6 of 11 going into those drives there, 6 of 11 with 3 touchdowns or 3 scoring drives on his out of 4 at that point. So again, the box score, not perfect, but I do think this was a better game than what that box score would say. And I'm not just gonna lean on the drops for that. I'm gonna lean on just the overall game plan and the lack of really having a full game plan in there. There's gonna be more quarterback runs. There's gonna be more run plays overall. There's gonna be even more RPOs and stuff like that, and more up-tempo stuff in the regular season. This was a small taste of it just to see if Richardson could handle it. That's all this was here in this game. So I'm going to look more towards the flashes and the good things that happened than look at like the overall macro ability of like, oh no, the offense wasn't hyper efficient. They were kind of efficient. They were moving the ball on every drive outside the 2-minute drill. So I thought it was a really positive game. I liked a lot of what I saw from the Colts offense and from Anthony Richardson in general. Yes, it came against a backup defense, but I think there was a lot of positive things to take away from this game.
Yeah, I came away from that first half just thinking this offense is going to be super frustrating for defenses to cover. The Colts have gone against that a bunch of times where, if it's Matt Ryan or Nick Foles, even Sam Ehlinger, you don't really have to worry about the quarterback quickly escaping and picking up 7-8 yards for a first down. Anthony made it look so easy. Like even on plays where there were penalties and things like that, like the guy just escapes pressure seamlessly, just so easily. He's so slippery for being that big. And then just even if it's a casual 7-yard jaunt to the sideline, boom, first down.
Yep.
Like he's just going to be able to easily extend drives. And I think that's going to be incredibly invaluable.
Yeah, it's going to be something we're going to talk about a lot this season, is that every play has the potential to be a positive gain. That is something we couldn't say the last couple of years with the Indianapolis Colts. Now, again, the consistency may not be there from day one, but every single play is going to have a chance at positive yards. Even if there's a blown assignment up front, even if they have 4 guys around his legs, he's still able to throw the ball out of there. That's just the kind of playmaking that you're going to get from this type of quarterback. But coming up next, we're going to actually talk more about this game, go into the Colts offense, what we liked, what we didn't like, probably still talk about these Colts wide receivers a little bit. We're going to talk about all the Colts offense here coming up in just a second. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sport, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you'll have. I personally love Gametime because if I feel like being spontaneous and going to a show or something on a whim, I can go right to them and not have to browse through a bunch of different places. With their flash deals, images of seat views, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime is an easy choice. Gametime is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means that you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress from Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for a $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And everydayers, don't worry, this is not our show for Friday. We're going to have yet another show tomorrow to talk about this Colts preseason in a wrap and also talk about some roster battles and what the Colts could do before cut down day. So make sure all you beautiful everydayers are joining us again tomorrow to talk about this wonderful Colts team. All right, Jake, so talking about the offense, obviously Anthony Richardson's the biggest story, but we obviously just covered him quite a bit in the first segment there. The next biggest story, though, is this Colts offensive line. Now, again, they played against backups, but the Colts were down a couple guys themselves. They had Danny Pinter starting at center, Carter O'Donnell over at right guard. So, it's not the Colts' full offensive line, but I thought they played extremely well. I didn't see too many issues. And then if there ever were some issues, maybe like an overbloated blitz or cover or just like a mistake up front in communication, luckily Anthony Richardson was there to hide those issues. I don't think they allowed a single sack when Anthony Richardson was out there. Yes, again, Richardson was pressured a couple of times, but for the most part, this offensive line played pretty strong for quarterback Anthony Richardson, which is such a positive sign to see.
Yeah, there were actually no sacks given up by the Colts whatsoever, which is impressive given what we've seen from the second and third team lines, throughout the preseason. So very impressive. Like you mentioned, it was really tough. We just talked about it several hours ago. This Colts offensive line, patchwork offensive line, going up against a really deep Eagles unit, which weren't playing its starters. But again, that's a really deep group. I was pleasantly surprised. Like you mentioned, Carter O'Donnell, probably a nice little plug there. Arlington Hambright had been right guard with Will Fries nursing his injury. So we'll keep an eye on that. But O'Donnell's a guy that's been around a while. They signed him to a contract extension this offseason, so I think they like him a little bit. So far, so good. I think it could have gone a whole lot worse. Would there have been sacks if it was Sam or Gardner in there the whole time? Yeah, probably. But that's the reason you got a guy like Anthony Richardson. He can erase those mistakes. So Still, we would have seen if it was super chaotic, and it wasn't. So
Yeah.
I'm cool with how the line performed.
Yeah, the only time you really saw free rushers when it was like an overload blitz, like they were bringing
Mhm.
like 6, 7 guys, and Richardson was doing a really good job of getting out of those plays, running around. Obviously, that big third down play where he spun out of pressure and picked up a good positive gain to give it
Mhm.
a very manageable field goal to the Colts offense. That's where you're seeing what's happening with that type of quarterback. He can just
Mhm.
mitigate those pressure issues like that. And as a result, both the O-line and Richardson were able to have a good day. And I also want to shout out that the offensive line looked pretty good in run blocking as well. It was kind of a struggle throughout the preseason here, just getting positive gains on the ground. But Evan Hull had a really good game, 6 rushes for 25 yards. A couple of those came within like the 1-yard line. So it kind of makes it a little bit less. But Evan Hull was able to pick up some good chunks. Deion Jackson scored as well. These backup
Jackson's
run.
touchdown could not have been a bigger hole. The line
Yeah,
completely moved the Eagles' defensive front to the right side. That
right.
was really good team
Right.
block.
So yeah, the Colts offensive line was blocking really well, and these 2 backup running backs, like again, Evan Hull, Deion Jackson, I have not thought they've had a bad game or bad moments really at all here in the preseason. I've been pretty impressed by both those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, moving along to a different group that has some battles going on with it, tight ends and wide receivers. But with the tight ends, we got to see a couple young guys do some things. Drew Ogletree had a nice 23-yard catch. That was his only catch on the day, but it was a catch and run, so not just high pointing something. Will Mallory leading all receivers for the Colts with 43 yards on 2 catches. 2 really nice plays at that. So no Mo Alley Cox tonight, no Jelani Woods. Really good showing from 2 guys who really could use it.
Yeah, I think the tight end group is pretty solidified at this point. Like, I would be extremely shocked if the Colts' 4 tight ends were not Jelani Woods, Kylan Granson, Drew Ogletree, and Will Mallory. I think those are your top 4 guys. Mo Cox has just missed a lot of time, and also I just don't think he really fits what this new regime is doing. I think that those top 4 guys are the 4 the Colts are going to go into the season with. They're going to have Jelani Woods as the de facto starter when he actually is healthy. Hopefully the
Mhm.
hamstring is not too big of an issue. Kylan Granson will be your mismatch in the passing game. Drew Ogletree is your blocking tight end that can also catch the ball a little bit. And then Will Mallory be your kind of healthy scratch each week, but also a pass catcher if you need it. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I really think this tight end group is pretty solidified right now. And that's something that we highlighted before the game, saying we wanted to see some more clarity there. I think this tight end group is pretty much figured out now.
That's mine too. My only hang up is how badly do they want to hang on to Mo Alley Cox? Like, I know this is a new coaching staff, so they have no ties to him. But does he just get like the veteran discount basically, where we know what you can do, we're going to keep you on? Because for me, that I'm right there with you. That would be my 4 tight ends. There was a comment in here too from Han. I just don't see what MAC provides for the team at this point. That's exactly right. I mean, yeah, I mean, you got other blocking tight ends in there as well. I think we've got our guys.
Yeah, I think they do at tight end. Again, when we're also looking at wide receiver here, the bottom of the wide receiver depth chart, I think Juwan Winfrey had a pretty good game as well. DJ Montgomery continued his really strong run these last 2 weeks.
Mhm.
I don't know how he wasn't on a roster before this point, and then especially like how he wasn't on the Colts roster before 2 weeks ago, because you're seeing him out there with these third stringers, and he's probably the best receiver out of all of them. He looks better than Amari Rogers. He's looked better than Cody Case. Obviously, he's looked better than Brashad Perriman, even in my eyes. Like, as long as you can get him out of that number 34, DJ Montgomery's looked pretty good in this preseason. And again, I'm not saying that he deserves to make the roster, because I think special teams comes into it. So like a guy like Juwan Winfrey just makes the most sense. But DJ Montgomery, I'm kind of a fan. Like, I would love to keep him around on the practice squad.
Yeah, that's a guy that can create yards after the catch. I mean, at least 2 or 3 of his catches in these 2 games have been ones where he's picked up lots of yardage after the catch, just kind of going across the middle. So that's a guy who can catch across the middle and can create yards on his own.
Mhm.
So I'm a fan. I mean, yes, he was here last year, but that was a totally different system. That was with Frank Reich. So for him to pick up this quickly, that's a good sign.
Yeah, Yeah, no, I'm impressed by him. I do again. I think it's going to be Juwan Winfrey for that wide receiver 5 spot, just because he's a little more versatile and can play on special teams. But look, at the Colts went with DJ Montgomery as well, at least initially. Cool. Like, I've been
Mhm.
impressed by him, and there's other guys that could still go. Like, I don't think that this bottom of the wide receiver depth chart completely solved itself in this game. Again, I would lean Winfrey over these guys, but it could be any of Rodgers, Perryman. It could be James Washington in there too. Like, it's
Mhm.
so tight there at the bottom there, and it might be a waiver claim as well. We don't even know exactly who it's going to be. So, yeah, I do think this could go any way with this bottom of the wide receiver depth chart.
Yeah, I definitely think that group got a lot more interesting tonight. But we're about to discuss the defense, which was headlined by the team's new starting outside corners. But first, a reminder about the place to be for Colts pregame tailgates, Nevermore. At Nevermore, get lost in literality and experience a place filled with intricate design and immersive experiences. From upscale food and spirits to music and entertainment, Nevermore will never be a predictable destination. There's 25,000 square feet of space, which features multiple rooms. Nevermore also has an elevated pub food menu, an old world style pub in the center of the space that features classic handcrafted cocktails, draft beer, wine, and seltzers. There's also a nice secret passage to a hidden speakeasy bar, which is a nice little private event venue. The rooftop terrace, awesome view, like I've told you guys. Game bar with classic billiards, duckpin bowling, arcade games, and more. I've been back there. That part of it is awesome. I could spend hours back there as well. Obviously, be sure to join us for each Colts home tailgate. 4 hours, all you can eat, all you can drink, all the games you can handle. The link is always in our show notes here, so be sure to get your tickets ready for week 1, September 10th. Already looking forward to that. Visit Nevermore under the historic Union Station on South Meridian Street in Indy. Follow Nevermore Union Station on Instagram or nevermoreunionstation.com. Escape and explore the extraordinary at Nevermore. Okay, Zach. So a couple really high points that we've seen from this one, and I think as well as the Bears game as well. These new starting outside cornerbacks, or at least the placeholders, Dallas Flowers and Darrell Baker Jr. combined for 5 pass breakups. I thought they were really good in coverage. Baker in particular had a nice one where he had to use that catch up speed to get back to the receiver and broke up the pass. These guys are playing aggressive. I like it. They are not passive. They want to fight for the ball. And they did that. Dallas Flowers, that's a dude with confidence. And I mean, cornerbacks have to have that. They have to have a short memory, and he seems to have those traits.
Yeah, Dallas Flowers, again, a couple of his pass breakups were they were a little close.
Yeah.
They were a tad close.
Bordered on DPI. Yeah.
Look, I will say this. I'm a defensive back guy at heart. So when in doubt, don't call the DPI. I love when corners are getting physical. And because, offensive players, they can get away with all this offensive pass interference whenever they can throw a defender to the ground and catch the ball. And it's perfectly fine. So I'm perfectly fine, with Dallas Flowers having a couple pass breakups that were not called where, in a real game, they might have been called pass interference. But nonetheless, I think he was in great position on a lot of those. You just want to see him get his head around a little bit sooner and kind of erase all doubt that could be pass breakup or that could be a penalty there. But Darrell Baker Jr., man, I was so impressed by him yet again. Really nice pass breakup on a 3rd down on like his last series of the game. And then, like you mentioned, the one where he had to play catch up, that was a phenomenal play because he was beat initially. He got beat on the play fake. He bit up. And instead of panicking and overrunning and grabbing the receiver, he got in that back hip pocket. He stayed on the inside because he knew he stayed on the outside because he knew he had safety help to the inside. And he just ran with the receiver and was able to make the really nice pass breakup. Yeah, he plays like a veteran. I love to see it. He looks really good in this system. And Darrell Baker Jr., I think, is going to be a really good corner for the Colts this season. So Flowers had a good game. Darrell Baker Jr. had a good game. And that's exactly what you wanted to see from these young corners that just needed more snaps in the preseason. So I'm glad they both got an entire half because they just needed those reps. And I thought they both looked really good in those reps.
Yeah, let's just get Baker a new number once cutdowns happen because I'm not digging the 39.
I don't hate 39. It's just maybe because it's just so much better than Jalen Jones's 40. Like the 40 is atrocious.
It is. I can't wait for his new number, whatever that is.
Yeah, like the 39 works, but maybe wasn't Marvell Tell 39?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe like a long corner in 39 just makes sense in my head because of that,
Right.
but I don't know.
No, there were some
It's fine.
numbers tonight that were really jarring, and I did not love.
Yeah, they need to change some of the numbers, but luckily they
Yep.
will once cut downs happen. Keeping it with the starting defense, two more big notes I made with the Colts starting defense. The run defense looked really good. Again,
Mhm.
backup offensive lineman, backup quarterback, backup running back. You got to take it with a grain of salt, but the Colts run defense this preseason has been a train wreck. And maybe
Yeah.
that's just because the backup defensive tackles and the backup linebackers have just not been great, but it was nice seeing the starters out there and actually holding an opposing running back to a horrible yards per carry. Trey Sermon,
Julian Blackman, I think, was a big part of that, him being back.
yeah, Julian
Yeah.
Blackman. I thought EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin were flying around out there. Obviously, having Grover on the interior instead
Yeah.
of Eric Johnson and Taven Bryan is massive. So I think Trey Sermon at one point had like 1.6 yards per carry with the starters are out there. Again, against backups, but it was nice to see that for once. Like it was just a bad preseason for run defense. And then going to Julian Blackman, like you said, it was great seeing him out there. He looked like Bob Sanders flying around just in terms of just every single hit was this violent collision where he was flying downhill. It could be in the run game, the pass game. He was all over the place. And you could tell that he just wanted to be back on the football field. And if he brings that kind of energy into the season, I'm feeling pretty excited about this young safety group.
Yeah, I really, really like him at strong safety where he's able to have things in front of him. With free safety, he is rangy, he can make plays, but strong safety just seems like such a better fit for him.
Yeah.
Because he is a tough guy who's not afraid to, shoot gaps and make tackles. Like I really like that about him. So strong safety is a nice fit. With that said, I do want to still see Nick Cross involved, but that's not for me to decide. That's for Bradley to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
But no, there's a couple of these depth guys that had good games too on the defensive line. Khalid Kareem, who he might be pushing for that roster spot now. I mean, I know the Colts re-signed him this offseason, so they clearly like him. McTelvin Agim had a nice play with the Eagles backed up deep in their own territory. Dio Dangbo had a sack. Probably not the first time that he's beat Dennis Kelly around the outside, But no, those guys all had pretty good games.
Yeah, I think Dio Dangbo is going to finish the preseason with 3 official sacks, and then he had 1 sack taken off for an offsides on the defense against the Bills as well. So, like unofficial 4 sacks in 3 games for Dio Dangbo. It's great to see. McTelvin Agim has had a really, really good preseason, and I really think he should make this roster over Taven Bryan, but we'll see what happens there. And then Khalid Kareem, if you're talking about those final 3 defensive ends, if you're already going to go with a veteran and not go with Titus Leo, I would probably go with Khalid Kareem because he's shown quite a bit in the pass rush department as well as being pretty sturdy in the run game. So I'm pretty excited about these guys. I think all 3. I mean, obviously Dio's going to make the team, so we don't have to speculate about that. But the other 2, I'd kind of put them on the roster. And we got one more guy we got to talk about because it's been a while since we've talked about this guy. And he was flashing. He had a great, great game. And we're excited because we were talking about him all camp. He got hurt against the Bills after not having a great game against the Bills, and he finally stood out. But our boy Segun Olubi, linebacker Segun Olubi, leveled some dudes in this game. Finally, the hit sticks were coming out, a couple big hits on defense and also on special teams as well. I don't think he makes this team. I think he's maybe a practice squad guy, but it was fun seeing Segun Olubi fly around out there.
Yeah, I really like him as a special teams player. I think he's a perfect fit for that. Defensively, he's still got to kind of figure some things out. Diagnosing what's going on in front of him. But no, as far as special teams goes, he's a heat-seeking missile who's not afraid to hit hard, and that's eventually going to lead to some forced fumbles as well. So if he makes the roster as a special teamer, cool. But I think I'm kind of in your camp there. I think if they can get him to the practice squad, that is probably the way to go. But no, it's great to see him back and looking like he's looked throughout camp after he had that concussion. So really, really good day for him. And yet another strong performance from Grant Stewart. You saw the hair out there flying around, making some open field tackles. So that guy has done nothing but solidify himself as LB4.
I will say he got toasted on that running back wheel route. That he got really lucky at that running back dropped it. But
yes, he did.
We're
but
not going to let that overshadow.
You expect that from him in coverage, though.
Yeah, we don't want to let that overshadow a really fun preseason from Grant Stewart. So I think there is an outside chance that Alubi could beat out Doman for linebacker 5, but it's probably going to be Doman. So we'll just see what happens with that. But I think that's all we have for today, guys. Everydayers, again, we'll be back here tomorrow afternoon to talk about this Colts roster overall, talk about some cuts that are coming up, and some potential moves that we could see from this team. So make sure you're tuning in to us tomorrow afternoon on YouTube and also on audio platforms, however you listen to us. And if you don't already, follow at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on Twitter. Also subscribe to the Locked On Colts podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'd love your guys' ratings and reviews, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Actually, it's later today. We'll see you back here later today, technically.